was not a good week for Dave Meltzer. This has not been a good year for Dave Meltzer, let alone a good week. He started the week on Monday by tweeting 2025 Backlash will be at the Tokyo Dome. Now, I'm sure the minute that he saw Tokyo Dome, he did a happy dance and he couldn't wait to break the news. The problem is, what he saw was a fan-made fake logo for Backlash Japan, which was posted by a spoof Twitter account called WrestleVotes. Evidently, he thought it was WrestleVotes. It was not WrestleVotes. It was WrestleVotes. I'm not sure what's worse. The fact that he fell for a fake WrestleVotes account, the fact that he posted without giving credit to the original source, which made it seem like he was breaking the news himself, or the fact that he didn't bother to verify the news before he tweeted that out to his 300,000 followers. He clearly doesn't have the sources that he used to have in that company, but you mean to tell me something as big as that, if you're gullible enough to fall for it in the first place, that you can't pick up the phone and call somebody or text somebody who works there to verify that? 9 minutes later, after he posted that, he posted a follow-up tweet, and both tweets have been deleted as far as I could tell. But he said, Backlash tweet apparently was a fake. Yeah, no shit, Dave. Apparently. He never linked to or quote tweeted the original tweet anyway, so someone who follows him and not WrestleVotes, I sound like fucking Elmer Fudd every time I say that, somebody who follows him and not WrestleVotes would not even have any idea what he's talking about in that follow-up tweet. Like, what tweet are you referring to? Your own? The one tweet that is still up, he posted a third tweet to tell us that he confirmed with WWE that the Tokyo Dome thing was a fake. It was your tweet! Oh my, I gotta be careful. I can't laugh. I can't laugh or the stitches might come out. You tweeted it. Of course it was fake. What has happened to this man? He should have put his phone down for the rest of the week for that alone. But a few days later, the ratings came out on Thursday for the NXT Dynamite head-to-head. Both shows went head-to-head on Wednesday night. Okay, so NXT got bumped out of its usual time slot, and they were head-to-head from 8 to 10 p.m. And as I predicted, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one, NXT, even though it was not in its regular night, they invaded AEW's turf on Wednesday, and they actually beat them. Remember when Dynamite ran on Tuesday last month? They got absolutely shellacked. NXT runs on their night, and they still get trounced. AEW does. Although not as badly as they did last month. Last month was just an annihilation. This wasn't an annihilation per se, but they got beat on their own night. NXT averaged 619,000 viewers on the CW network, and an 0.17 rating in the coveted 18 to 49 demo. As compared to Dynamite, in its regular time slot, which averaged 523,000 viewers on TBS, with an 0.16 rating, as opposed to an 0.17 rating in 18 to 49. Now, neither number is anything to sing home about. That goes for NXT also, okay? It's like fighting over the ugliest girl in the class. But that AEW rating, it ties the second lowest 18 to 49 number in the history of the show. Overall, it was the lowest rating in the history of the show. 5 years of Dynamite, that is the low point. There's no two ways about it. That is embarrassing for AEW. It's like having home field advantage and getting beat by the visiting team. Don't tell that to Dave Meltzer. He felt compelled to defend AEW against some random person on Twitter, and I swear this is what he said. If I worked at TBS, I would say that AEW won. Warner Brothers Discovery, when it does internal ratings, it's based on 18 to 49 as a percentage of homes that get the station. I've seen copies. In the standings, how they would have it, which is the statistically fair way to look at it, it would be 0.39 to 0.38. But I don't work at TBS. No, you don't. And I wish I could believe him when he says something like, I've seen copies. A few years ago, I wouldn't have even questioned it. If he said that he had seen something, Okay, then he must have seen something. But after the internal memo debacle a couple of months back, where he claimed to have seen an internal Warner Brothers memo on the total value of AEW programming, which turned out to be an Excel spreadsheet some fan drafted and shared on a Discord, which he saw, after that, I have to question everything the man says. Even when he claims to have seen copies. What did he see? What did he see? A PowerPoint presentation put together by, at My Hairy Balls Itch Me on Blue Sky? What did he see? By the way, that internal memo gaffe, it happened the same week that he tweeted that Afa of the Wild Samoans was dead, while he was actually still alive. But it doesn't help his cause with those people who think he's in the tank for AEW when they get their ass kicked, and his first response is to say, if I were TBS, I would say they actually won.
Remember Brendan, my therapist? He singled out.
How are those figures at Linda?
His response is to say, if I were TBS, I would say they actually won. But it gets even worse. Then, in this week's newsletter, he wrote about Dutch Mantell. Now, for those who don't know, Dutch has not been doing very well. He's been in and out of the hospital for much of the past year. Although he's back home right now, he has not been able to do his podcast, although I think he's supposed to be getting back to that. His wife is also very sick. She's been hospitalized 11 times since May. She's maxed out her days in the hospital that her insurance will cover. Their daughter, Amanda, has exhausted her own savings trying to keep the bills paid. It's just a really bad situation for that family all around right now. There's a GoFundMe set up for them that has so far raised over $95,000 on a goal of $100K. So people have really responded. They've really come out in the wrestling community to support them. So Dave posted about it in The Observer. Great. Brings more attention to what's going on, and it is newsworthy. And if that's all he would have posted, then nobody would have said a word. But after mentioning all of that, and the GoFundMe, Meltzer continued. He singled out Tony Khan and Chris Jericho as the top donors to the campaign, which is fine. Tony Khan donated $5,000. So did Jim Cornette and his wife. Jericho donated $1,500. Jericho is a name that you see constantly in these wrestler GoFundMes. He's always, donating to wrestlers who are in need of one thing or another. So, there's nothing wrong with mentioning who the top donors were, but it's very interesting that he singled out Tony Khan and Chris Jericho, but not Jim Cornette and Stacey Cornette, since I know Cornette hates Dave's guts now and constantly bashes him. But he mentioned Khan and Jericho, and he continued with this. With Khan, many have pointed out that Mantell as a podcaster was brutal to Khan. First of all, many have pointed out, who is this many that he speaks of? It's like when someone says, many people are saying about something, when in reality, absolutely nobody is saying that. The voices in your fucking head are saying it. Anyway, he says, many have pointed out that Mantell as a podcaster was brutal to Khan, even being critical of him when the promotion was at its popularity peak, and recently criticized him for the contract terms Swerve Strickland got in his recent deal. It is something when a former wrestler gets mad at a promoter who clearly can afford it for what he pays the top talent. And he was doing it after he knew the new deal was put together that was going to make the company exceedingly profitable. Wrestlers using the old school, he doesn't draw money, and not understanding that this is not a mom-and-pop week-to-week business based on live event numbers, but one that, in a worst-case scenario year, would generate $250 million next year, and that most of that revenue is guaranteed ahead of time. How did he go from mentioning Dutch Mantell almost died twice, his wife is sick, and there's a GoFundMe to help them, to kicking the man when he's down for saying something negative about AEW and Tony Khan and rambling on in defense of their new television deal? How did we get from point A to point B like that? This is what I'm talking about. He does not do himself any favors when it comes to people talking about him being on the payroll there. And for the record, I don't think he is. But he sure acts like it sometimes, doesn't he? I also thought it was tacky as fuck for him to tack that on. There was no reason for him to even go into that whole diatribe there at the end of the paragraph. What was the point in even bringing that up? To show what a great guy Tony Khan is? What is he, his PR person? Because Dutch has had criticisms at times of AEW on his podcast. So has everybody else. What does that have to do with anything? It's just fucking weird.
My least favorite tequila, absolutely Jose Cuervo.
It tastes bad.
Nobody cares. It tastes bad.